Hey, brother!
And welcome everyone to our official live-action Aladdin spoiler review.
So many modifiers on there.
I know.
Oh man, so I'm excited to dive into this movie.
Yes.
And I'm excited to talk about whether or not it is as good as the original.
Ooh, it's a lot to live up to.
Here we go. Guys, before we get started, I want to direct your attention to the SuperCarlinBrothers Patreon page, where right now we have a really cool thing that we're doing, where basically if you sign up at any tier at all, even the $1 tier, we are going to be sending you guys a personalized video message from the two of us.
Yes, both of us are going to sit down, talk directly to you, and you won't be able to talk back, but we'll still pause for you to talk back.
Yeah,
anyway.
we'll ask questions like, how are you?
Which is
awesome! Oh my gosh!
amazing!
Every once in a while, we'll mix it up and be like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But you know, you get the idea. Anyway, check it out. Link is in the description down below.
Patreon.com/SuperCarlinBrothers. Aladdin!
Oh my gosh. So this movie was one that I walked into the theater like with minimal expectations on. And not that I had low expectations necessarily. I just kind of didn't have expectations.
Well, it's had a lot to compete with just making it to theater on this particular weekend. Like, in the past month, we've seen the finale of Game of Thrones, the finale of Avengers Endgame, and that same weekend, even though it wasn't the finale of Game of Thrones, it was like the Battle of Winterfell, which is its own giant thing.
Yes.
In the meantime, Aladdin has had poor trailer reception due to a lot of genie CGI complaints, I guess?
Sure, where, like maybe it wasn't quite what people were expecting or hoping for. And so even when you take it away from the surrounding movies, just the movies this year, we have Toy Story 4, we have a live-action Lion King, we've got another Spider-Man movie.
Detective Pikachu just came out, which is a CGI heavy movie that people seem to be really enjoying the CGI of. Right.
We got Frozen 2 and Star Wars Episode 9 all in 1 year.
It's a big year.
When I say walking to theater with like no expectations, it was just sort of like somehow, some way, as much as I love the movie Aladdin and like we grew up with it. I was sort of like, okay, I'm excited to see what they've done. Yeah,
it was just weirdly under the radar overall for me. And like, even if it didn't have all that stuff to compete with, like it still has to compete with the fact that it's a remake of a very beloved like Renaissance Disney movie. Which is just like, there's almost no winning that fight. Like it's so hard to make a good live action adaptation and make it like good for the modern audiences, but that also satisfies the nostalgia of people. Because like, if you don't do anything just right, everyone's like, it wasn't as good, it wasn't as good. But if you don't change anything, people are like, well, what was even the point?
Okay, and here is going to be my sweeping declaration on that note out of the gate. So if your critique of this movie is that Will Smith is not Robin Williams, that is not a critique.
It's very unfair.
Like, of course, he's not Robin Williams. Like, nobody was going to be Robin Williams other than Robin Williams. Like, that was a performance that like is just held in its own place on the shelf that's like, it glows, you know?
It's
so that is like the
unique.
one thing that I don't want to consistently hear people say is like, oh, well, you know, Will Smith didn't do as good a job as Robin Williams. Like,
now,
let's get past that.
On the flip side, do you think a fair critique is like Will Smith wasn't allowed to be enough Will Smith?
Interesting question.
Like, people are complaining he's not Robin Williams enough, but was he just like, they wanted him to sort of be, and they like had he gone full, I don't know, I felt like maybe he wasn't like even just full Will Smith in the movie. Okay,
so I will say that sort of, my take on it was very much that it felt like it was at like maybe 70% energy level.
Sure.
Like it did seem like there was a little bit of like holding the punches. Like we want to be like true to the character. We want Genie to be Genie, but it was like if you're like loud and yelling at the camera and like, you know, full volume, then it like seems like we're trying to be Robin Williams.
Yeah, so don't do that. But then it's like, how much? Where is the line between Robin Williams and the Genie? This is the problem.
Right. And so I would say that I felt like Will Smith probably had more fuel in the tank that could have been.
I agree. I would agree. That said, they lean in heavy into the like Genie as Hitch role.
They so totally do.
Like, I'm like, is this a Hitch origin story right now?
I know.
Is that a little bit? I'm okay with it.
Fan theory.
Look, that's right.
Yes.
Why Hitch is actually so good at getting women. He's a genie.
He's a genie. It's unfair. No, I had the same thought. There was a couple of moments where I was like, this is strange. Is he like coaching Aladdin?
He literally also teaches him to dance and makes him do it.
Right. Yes.
It's like all these awkward scenes. He's like whispering in his ear. And it was like, is this just Albert Brenneman? Is Jasmine the girl from, is that his name, right?
Yeah, I cannot believe you pulled that name out of your hat.
Kevin James. Man.
Well, very nicely done. That was a reference that I'd be willing to bet 50% of people are like, who? What?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? No, so interesting. And speaking to that, they did I thought a pretty good job though of having Jasmine basically not like anything that was not Aladdin being Aladdin.
Right.
So like everything that like the genie was teaching him was like, this is how you were supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And all of it was like, well, all of that means that he's not being himself.
Right.
And by not being himself, she wasn't being taken with it. So there's the scene where like they finally seem to be breaking the ice and he starts dancing and she seems kind of impressed and I'm like, oh no, don't do this, guys. Don't do this. That's not Aladdin. He's not the one dancing. He doesn't even know how to dance.
Exactly.
And then it was like, okay, no, she left.
Nope, she didn't like it. She didn't like it.
Jasmine on top of it as always.
Yeah, her radar for just like bogusness was like at 100%.
Okay.
The whole movie.
So I know that we're jumping around right now.
Yeah.
But I'm going to firmly state that they could have retitled this movie Jasmine.
They maybe could have.
Like,
I don't know.
So good.
Naomi Scott, I think, is the walk away best performance easily in the movie. It's not even, she like, to me, when you have the genie, if he doesn't steal the show, which I'm going to say he didn't,
I would agree.
It's pretty impressive on the other actress in this case who does steal the show, which is pretty much Jasmine.
Oh,
for most of the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that they did an absolutely spectacular job with this character all the way around. They gave her so much more depth. And like, to be fair to the original Jasmine, like she was always supposed to be the foil of the Sultan. So the Sultan's kind of like this kind-hearted, bouncing around sort of little jolly guy who I think mostly tries to make people happy.
Right.
So he's not like a bad guy, but he just doesn't have like a
very
backbone.
Gullible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very squishy.
Very squishy. And Jasmine in the original, of course, is like, she is strong and independent and sort of has like her own way of seeing things. But they do give us some backstory. They help explain why she's pretty much never left the palace before.
Which we totally called.
We did.
Oh my gosh.
That day
we uploaded the video and then went and watched it. I was like, that's what we said. That's what we said was going to happen. Man, it was amazing. Sorry, I almost knocked my coffee.
And my coffee.
I'm sorry, coffee.
That's all right. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they dialed up sort of like the relationship with the mother and kind of like who she used to be. So I thought all of that was particularly well handled. There was something else I thought
you had for Jasmine there.
That I have for Jasmine. Yeah, let's see here.
Was it her song?
Okay, well, we'll come back to the song. The other thing, in addition to like the mother backstory, was the fact that she wanted to be Sultan.
Oh yeah. They upped her ambition level
by a lot.
A lot.
So before, the key thing that Jasmine really truly wanted was to be able to pick who she married.
Right.
Like she didn't want to have to be set up with somebody. She wanted the decision.
Yeah, she wanted to marry for love and on her own terms and timetable.
Right.
That's most of her motivation in regular Aladdin.
Right. But in this one, we see a Jasmine that has significantly more ambition. She wants to take over leadership, which would be, the first person in 1,000 years of Agrabah.
First person ever.
Yeah, right. To become
female sultan.
Right, right. And I think even this was a very small little thing, gave more meaning to the family ring. In the original Aladdin, it was like this weird thing where like there's this massive blue ring that he's wearing.
Right.
That he very clearly had not been wearing the whole time.
Right. That all of a sudden is this big plot device that helps Jafar find Aladdin. And this time, he still has a ring. It doesn't help him find Aladdin at all. We can come back to that point in a second. and he like passes it on as this is the ring of the Sultan.
Right.
Now, well, it's sort of like you will be the next Sultan, but then they sort of acted like that happened immediately. And to me, it's like, well, you still, are you giving it like right now transfer power, or like do you still need to die, or like what's happening?
I think it was right now.
You think it was right now?
I think it was right now.
Okay.
I feel like what the Sultan was seeing was basically that like she had clearly demonstrated that she is in fact ready to take on the reins of the
I think
kingdom.
So.
Which the only thing that I will say is that a Sultan should probably know that bread costs money. Like
that is a little weird thing.
They kept this scene from the original where you've got like the ignorance of the woman who's never left the palace before, who doesn't know that food isn't just allowed to be like allocated.
Yeah, it maybe would take a second look. In the first one, she's like, I don't even know that food costs money. This one is like, I just don't have money, or maybe in her mind it was like so justified that like, just give those kids bread, they're starving.
Sure.
Sort of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I agree with you. They did keep that in, and it did feel like, well, you didn't know that, and also you want to be Sultan, so big disconnect there.
Right.
But that said, I liked the way Jasmine was introduced in this movie, which was not sitting alone in the palace, like wishing she could leave. You just meet her having broken out.
She's already done it.
And you find out after the fact that she hasn't been out of the palace for a long time. So, like, if you were extremely ignorant and had never heard the story of Aladdin and didn't see the previews and just walked in, you might not know who she was. You'd be like, oh, he's just helping this girl.
Okay,
yeah.
That's an interesting thought, because there was, throughout the movie, I thought that there were like some elements of predictability where if we were watching an original story, you might be able to have called it really early on, like what's going to happen. And of course, we know what's going to happen because we know the story.
Right, like the moment you see Jasmine, you're like, oh, she's just already out.
Right. Yeah, so like the fact that she lies about who she is to Aladdin even is like, we're like, well, we know you're Jasmine, of course.
Yeah, this is no big reveal.
Exactly.
I wonder if anyone has never seen the movie before, and when she like walks out to greet the other prince, they're like, oh,
no.
What?
What a crazy reveal!
Man, I thought he was gonna be dating the handmaid. That'd have been weird.
I totally envy you if that got to be a reveal that you got to enjoy. But of course you don't expect to. And so that's the other element of it too, is that like the gray area.
Yeah.
As soon as he says that, you're like, oh, well, that's gonna end up being like the thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm gonna come back to that. I did not like that, but
okay, sure. And there are a couple of, well, I do have complaints, but we'll circle back to those. But that's one of those things. But as soon as he's like kind of indicated that wishes don't always work exactly the way that you think that they might, like you need to be really careful about your commands.
Right.
You're like, okay, well, he's obviously not going to teach Jafar that lesson. And,
right.
You know, if Jafar had said, make me a prince, he would have been like, here's your
prince.
Enjoy.
End of wish.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, so it's like, it builds in this layer of predictability. Like, it's not hard to figure out that that's ultimately like what it's going to be. But at the end of the day, we know where it's going anyway.
Yeah, so. That's the thing. You figure most of the people seeing the movie have seen the original.
Right.
I would think. But I don't know. That's the thing. It's such a weird position. Like, if you're a teenager today, maybe you haven't seen the original.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah. So what were you going to say, though?
Oh, about the gray area?
Yes.
Okay, well, so there are two elements in particular about Aladdin's character that they change and that I think severely take away from his character overall. And it's the same move in both situations. So the first one is how he tricks the genie out of the cave.
Absolutely. Don't know why they changed it.
I don't know why they changed it.
It's my notes. Like in the original, he's like using his kind of charisma and like his swagger to
be like, hey, couldn't even get us out of this cave. And he's like, oh, I'll show you. Boom.
Right. And it's like, we're out of the cave. And it's like, ha, didn't have to waste a wish on that one.
Yeah. This one, he literally says, I wish I was out of the cave. And he's just not holding the lamp. And to me, having to hold the lamp and rub it as you did it seemed kind of stupid.
Oh, it seems completely ridiculous. And that was like of all the loopholes, why not just, like, there's there's nothing challenging. Like if you're going to present a scenario that you change and it's like there's no real good way to visually do it, then you can sort of get behind the idea of like, okay, maybe they had to change it. But the way that they leave the cave is exactly the same. The dialogue just changes.
Yeah.
It's purely just like a...
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be, I think, part of Aladdin's kind of charm is that he has lived on the streets. He's learned how to think on his feet.
Right, he's supposed to be all street smarts and stuff. And
right.
You're like, oh, I tricked the genie, haha. And so, that said, that moment is supposed to, in the original, sets up later how he defeats Jafar, which is that he also tricks Jafar into, like, wishing himself to be a genie, specifically. Right. In this case, however, he's staring at big sorcerer Jafar, and the genie, like, motions to his cuffs. Like, the genie telegraphs the idea to Aladdin.
Oh, right.
And it was just like, Aladdin doesn't even come up with the idea to trick him into it. Like, he executes it, but it's not his idea. And that, like, that really undercut that moment a lot for me.
I would have to go back for a pass too, because when he showed his cuffs, I had the same thought as you. Like, hey, like, this is an idea.
Yeah.
Like, if he's a genie, we can, like, put him back in the lamp. But I also didn't know if it was, like, if Aladdin was looking at Genie, like, you have to help, and he's like, I can't. Like, click, click. And I'm not sure, there might be, like, some nuance there where it's, you have to see, like, which facial expression was made when, in which order, to figure out whether or not that was, like, a cued thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it also seems, because it feels, because he says, there's a lot of gray area in that wish. It seems like the genie very much knows exactly, I'm going to zap you into a genie,
right,
and you're going to be trapped. Like, in the animated one, he zaps him, and the genie has forgotten that these restraints are going to come as a result.
Right.
And he's like, oh, that was so clever. Good job, Aladdin.
Right. Like, you outthought the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the thing, too. And it's like, it's weird because in situations like that, like his lack of street smarts, his lack of ingenuity is like, it's sort of like a falter. But on the flip side, when Aladdin walks in and like meets the Sultan inside of the palace and Jasmine for the first time, they're having the whole exchange about jam.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
They go on about jam forever.
They do. There is a heavy emphasis on two things, weirdly, in this movie. One is awkwardness.
Yes.
And two is dancing.
Sure.
But yeah, so there's the awkward, like, almost all the characters get a scene, but there is the awkward scene where Jasmine is trying to tell her handmaid that they need to pretend to be each other.
Oh, right.
Because Aladdin doesn't know she's the princess yet. And, like, that was pretty funny.
Right,
She's like, bracelet guy,
right,
come on.
from behind.
He's like, yes, I'm going. And then she, like, starts passive-aggressively attacking Jasmine. Which is really fun. I'm going to change into my dress for every hour of the day. I guess whose job that is normally.
Right. Yeah,
that was pretty fun. But then, then the genie coming up and trying to, like, woo the handmaid, and he gets all awkward as well.
Okay, so what did you think? Because that was a brand new story.
Yeah.
Is Genie having like a moderate love interest?
I feel like I need to continue to ruminate on it.
Yeah.
It's sort of weird because he's such like a phenomenally cosmic being, and he's like being attracted to this just regular mortal person. I don't exactly know. It just doesn't seem like it would.
Well, okay, so for one, I'm gonna say I also felt like that throwback to Hitch with that, where like he's really good at giving the advice, but then when it comes to like his own turn to like step in, he was like, putting his foot in his mouth over and over again. But I feel like what Genie really wanted, and maybe this is another difference where like at the end of the original, Genie is free, but he still seems like he's a genie.
Yeah.
At the end of this, it seemed like he's a person.
It does seem like he's just
human.
A person. It is difficult to say whether they just like didn't show him using more magic.
Sure.
Like maybe he still has powers. It felt like they were sort of trying to like leave the door cracked open for Return of Jafar. Like maybe if this is really successful, we'll do Return of Jafar, and if not, whatever. You got Aladdin. That's how the normal movie ends. Because Because like they're doing Maleficent too, so I
so
can
it's,
see
it's possible.
It's possible, but like you would need the genie back, or what would really be the point?
Right.
But he says something at the beginning, like when he's telling the story to his now children, about how their little boat is like going to be fine. It's gotten us through so many storms or whatever. Like that could have been an allusion to like, nah, don't worry. It doesn't really matter. Like everything will always be fine because I can do magic.
Because I can fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I do think there's something to be said for the idea that like someone who's had this phenomenal cosmic power values the normalcy that is just human existence.
Right.
Because like everybody of course would think like what would you want more than like great big powers that can do anything, and it's like to be normal.
Right.
So I think there's something to that. Personally, I didn't mind the arc, and I actually thought the handmaid was like, she was so strange in the way that she would communicate.
She's
like,
really blunt.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, she was just always just like, this is what I want.
Yep.
A great big boat. And it's like, how about a small boat instead? Perfect.
It was funny. That was the thing, is like, it felt a little weird that the great big genie had a crush on this like handmaid, but at the same time, it was funny and like charming too. Like it worked.
Okay, well, so the other thing too is that like, you say this great big genie, but he's also always got a master, and a handmaid, by definition, would always have a master. So like,
yeah, there is some symmetry there.
Right, like they're sort of both like the second tier person underneath like the person who makes the decisions.
Oh boy, that is a big theme, isn't it? Like not being number two. Like that's Jafar's big thing. Like I can't be number two ever, no matter what.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk Jafar, because we haven't touched on that yet. So when I saw Jafar in the trailers, I was like, nope, they missed it. Like,
not.
Ultimately, I felt like it was better than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And I liked that they sort of had the moment where he like stole the thing from Aladdin.
Oh,
and
I loved that moment where it was like, oh, you're a whole different kind of villain.
Right.
Like you've got some like sneaky skills yourself, and he's almost like the like the worst case scenario for Aladdin. Like this is what you could have ended up as.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
But I loved that like, you know, it was very much like the hero has this cool pickpocket, like master thief sort of thing, and then it just turns out like the villain also has the same skill. It was like, oh, yeah, I really liked that scene.
They sort of gave this element that like Jafar had, like he came into power, because they didn't give an origin story for him before. We don't really know where he comes from, other than he's number two.
Yeah, he just sort of starts as the royal vizier.
Right. So the idea that he was sort of somebody who like, you know, manipulated his way up. It reminded me of like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
Very much. Chaos is a ladder.
Right. So he had just sort of like worked his way up there. I thought there was the scene in the beginning where he's kind of like ruthless and knocks the guy in the well.
Yeah.
Like you start to pick up on this idea that like, okay, this guy is like.
Yeah. I thought his introduction was pretty good. And I really, I liked the scene with the pickpocket, not just because it made him like a more relatable, like a cool, I don't know, made him more like on an even keel with Aladdin there. But then it was, I think, him pickpocketing Aladdin, which seemed like it had just never happened to him.
Right.
That like won him over. He's sort of like, it made him relatable to Aladdin.
Sure.
And it was like, I used to be like you. Look at, you know, I was exactly you one time. Now I've climbed up, and you know, if you'll help me, I can
help you.
I can help you get to where I am. And it was just like, you know, then maybe you'll be worthy of the princess. And it was like, it wasn't that he still offers him basically the same thing in the movie, where he's offering him like enough riches to impress the princess.
Sure.
But this time it feels like he wins him over and then offers, as opposed to winning him over with the offer.
Sure.
Which I did like more.
I think that's a really, really good way to put it. Yeah. I thought that made a lot of sense. Okay, so then going into like the Cave of Wonders, was that majestic enough for you? Did you think that it had like all the makings of like what you've always imagined from before?
No, not entirely. I mean, I'm gonna come up to like one big point at the end. There was a lot of scenes from the movie, or from the animated, that are like big and bright and colorful that don't translate as well to the live action version.
Sure.
And the Cave of Wonders was still good. Like they did a good job showing you the treasures, but at the same time, there is totally a part where they just stumble through some treasure and nothing happens.
Nothing. I know.
I was like, what is this? Like, by not touching the treasure, do you mean don't intentionally reach out with intent to take treasure.
Right.
Like, that seems to be, like, what the cave meant. Because otherwise, basically every step on the way up to the lamp itself even was covered in just, like, gold coins and chains and stuff. And it was like, there's no avoiding touching it, really.
Right.
Like, it's sort of everywhere. So, I don't know. I don't like it when they just mess with the specifics like that, because they totally touch a bunch of it and nothing happens. But I did like the cave defense system. I thought that scene looked really cool.
Yeah.
That felt really good. I liked that a lot. But, okay, here's the thing about rule breaking. I'm just going to sort of circle back to it with, like, the touching the treasure. So, you talked earlier about how when the genie, like, says, oh, I can't help you because of the cuffs or whatever.
Right.
Right. Okay. Here's the problem, is that there's this big never had a friend like me theme kind of running through the movie.
Sure.
Where, like, the genie has never had a friend like Aladdin. And
right.
he's sort of slowly learning that. And he says, none of my masters have ever treated me in such a way that I would, like, break the rules for them. I broke the rules for you. And it's just like, no, don't say that. You can't break the rules. That's the point. If you can break the rules, you don't have to listen to Jafar. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Sure.
It's like,
sure.
if you don't say I broke the rules, like, just, you made the contract thing, that's fine, cool, whatever. Like, you got through it. You saved him and it cost him a wish. Don't say the words, I broke the rules.
Okay.
Because if you're allowed to break the rules, then all bets are off.
I see where you're coming from.
You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, because it's like if you suggest or you put into the narrative that you're capable of it, then that starts, like, shattering the whole contract anyway. It's like yes, you're bound as genie to help the person who rubs the lamp, to what end?
Right.
Yeah. You know, yeah. So you would almost think, like, what it comes down to is that if he can find, like, a loophole, maybe it works, but otherwise.
Yeah. The other thing, like, there's other little tiny things, like logical inconsistencies that I don't think, like, in the animated one, Jafar sends him off to the snow, like, inside the missile or whatever, and the carpet sneaks in for the ride or whatever.
Sure.
In this one, the genie sends the carpet to go get him, but it's like, if you're gonna send the carpet to him and you know where he is, why don't you just zap him back?
Right.
You know,
right.
like, it just, like, things like that. I know that's getting just a little nitpicky, but again, that's him breaking the rules. That's the genie doing something he shouldn't be doing.
Sure.
It's just like, if you can do some things, what things can't you do?
Yeah.
And I don't, it's fine. It doesn't, like, take away too much from the movie, but it's there.
Sure.
It's present.
Right. And yeah, I would agree. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the next things we have to talk about is the songs.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's talk about the songs.
Because, yeah, so it was super interesting to me because I was sort of all over the place. Like, some of them I was, like, drastically underwhelmed, and then others I was totally shocked.
Yeah. Well, there's a few. Okay, so it opens on Arabian Nights, as it does in the animated one. It's starting from the boat. And, okay, let me say this about that song is that I love the cinematography during it, where they're giving you this one big long shot from the boat, and you kind of go into the market and you see Abu and you see Aladdin pickpocket somebody, and then you pan up to the palace and you see the Sultan sitting there and Jasmine being a little sad and Jafar doing his thing. Or then they go to the Cave of Wonders and Jafar is, like, sending his first victim into the cave or whatever.
Right.
And they don't really show you anyone's face at all. They just sort of show you these are the people.
Right.
Oh, I really liked that. I did not love Will Smith singing in the song.
This is one of those too where right out of the gate, and the same thing happened in Beauty and the Beast, the live action, where, like, the very first note you hear is Belle, like, auto-tuned, and you're like, no, like, what are we setting ourselves up for? And then it gets better. But this is one of those things where, like, he's supposed to be telling a story to his two children, and he's like, I'm not gonna sing it, and then he, like, goes to climb the ladder, and he's like, well, I come from a land, you know, but, like, I feel like he could have gotten, like, for your kids, you could get super into it, like jump down and be, like, you know, like, low with them, and, like, really getting into it and stuff, like.
It felt like he was just holding back, like,
that's exactly
it was just
how
like,
it
felt like he's at, like, 80%, and you're like, dude, just, like, it felt like he was embarrassed to go for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what I was almost hearing. It was like, dude, just go for it. Like, you can do it. I know you can sing.
Oh, right, yeah. It's like, that was one of the best parts about them having Will Smith is that they did get someone who can sing.
Right.
Like, you know, he has the skill set.
Yeah. It felt like he just wasn't all in.
Right. And I would say that ultimately carries over to his like first little rendition of Friend Like Me.
Yeah.
Where like he had been flat enough in the beginning to where when he does his first like kind of fake Friend Like Me, I was like, man, they're really missing it. Like like again. And then they're like, oh no, but there's another one, and then he like busts it out and kind of goes for it. But even that one, I would say like one of my favorites from the original Aladdin movie, and I would say it was fine. It was good. So, but I don't know. I would say going into Prince Ali though, which is one where I wouldn't have marked it as one of my favorites from the original. I thought that they crushed this one.
I thought they crushed Prince Ali. I thought, because there's two big fun Genie songs.
Right.
And it's Prince Ali and Friend Like Me.
Right.
And yeah, Friend Like Me, it was good. They did lots of fun things. I don't think it was quite the same as the original.
Sure.
Again. But I did like Prince Ali a lot better. I thought they handled that really well. Because it's hard to do.
It is.
Because, I mean, you know, the Genie can just do so many fantastical things. It's really hard to like translate those into like the screen and live action.
Reality. Well, and I'm speaking even to the tune of like I thought the visuals were good for the most part. I thought the song was great. The absolute worst part of it is when Genie is like doing the window hopping thing.
Oh my gosh! Like, what intern edited the special effects on that?
That was like something we could do.
I know.
I was like, that wasn't fantastic.
Like, okay, yeah, there's a scene, in Prince Ali where he's just like hopping between like windows, not like all over the place windows, just like this window to this window, like all in a row.
Right.
And he's clearly just standing in front of a green screen, and they're just putting in the background there, and it was just like, it does not look good.
No, it doesn't.
It's like you could...
And they held it, like they even did this mirror thing in the movie several times where they would have like Genie like looking in a mirror.
Okay.
And that effect didn't work either. Like the mirror is just like floating out in space, and it's like, guys, try something else. And then it's like, then they bring it back again, and it's like, no, you did, guys, it didn't work the first time.
Yeah. A lot more of, but that said, it's weird how they display his magic in different ways. Because, like, in Prince Ali, like, that part of it didn't work. But when they just cut to every different scene and he's just also there, like, they don't even have to show him teleporting. Him just being there feels magical. Because you can tell he couldn't have gotten there. But he is there.
Because you understand how space works. Like, you can't, like, travel, like, those distances. I liked when he came out doing, like, the cross-dress thing because, like, where he's, like, dressed as a woman.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that was very classic, too. Like, Genie keeps being, like, one of the women singing in, like, a bunch of the original. So I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah, that was good.
Like, a cool inclusion.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, so we... kind of hopping around a little bit, and not on purpose, just my brain's everywhere. The idea that like they didn't feel like they were going for it is something that I felt like Aladdin also suffered from a couple of times.
A little bit. His wasn't as bad because in One Jump, his like opening song, he's like doing so much like fun parkour stuff. Like you don't really notice as much because it's so like that's fun. Like parkour Aladdin, I'm for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was good.
But like, you know, I think there's one scene in particular where he's like on the back of the cart, and I imagine what's happening is they record the song obviously in a booth somewhere, you know, so that it's perfect and it sounds great.
Yeah.
And then they're dubbing over them not doing anything.
Yeah.
I like in my head, I'm thinking to myself, like if I was an actor, I would have so much trouble with that. Like I couldn't get out there, and there's no music in the background. You don't have all those elements like backing you up.
Oh, they might be playing the music.
Sure, but like it's not in the same way that you're seeing it on screen.
Yeah.
Like you have to imagine what the ultimate final product would look like and just basically be mouthing along.
Yeah.
To me, it feels challenging, and so I could like ultimately relate to the idea of it might be really hard to look like you're just belting it.
Right.
But I still wish that they looked like they were belting it, you know, like instead of just like singing at normal volume. So I don't know. That was like a weird critique. But then when you hop over to Jasmine on the other end,
that's the thing. And I will say, Jasmine has the benefit of having a brand new song that they're not having to recreate. So you're not really comparing it back to anything.
True.
But just regardless, she's such a better singer than everyone else in the movie.
Oh, by a freaking mile.
It's not even close.
So A Whole New World is one of my favorite Disney songs.
Right.
Like, just out of all of them, I think it might come to, like, right up there with Make a Man Out of You and
Rapunzel,
yeah, Tangled.
I See the Light.
I See the Light. Yes. Like those would be like my top 3 songs, and Aladdin sings, and I'm like, oh no, it's not gonna be good. And then she comes in, and it's like, oh, but she's so good.
Yeah, that's when it's the most noticeable, because there's 2 people going back and forth, and you're like, 50% of you are really good at this.
It's like the stark contrast.
Yeah, it's very stark.
And speaking on A Whole New World, they did this thing, and they did the same thing in Beauty and the Beast, where Belle would like cut what I would imagine, and I don't even know the singing terminology of it, but like a note that I would imagine you would let ring, and I think it was the word charming is the way that Emma Watson sang it. Yeah, he was like, no, Prince, charming. And it was like,
charming. Yeah,
it was like really like quick. In A Whole New World, they do it on the word world and the word decide, but like, I can show you the world.
I didn't notice that, but
it's like how does it?
Like, that's the big one.
Right, yeah, it's like, no, that's the...
You gotta get that.
Yeah, and I think the reason that I notice it is maybe even because as I walk through my house by myself all the time singing that song, I can't hit it at all.
Right.
And I think because I can't hit it, I think to look for it, maybe.
Oh, sure.
Maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So I was maybe a little bit let down with A Whole New World, Aladdin side. I thought Jasmine crushed it. But then there's Speechless.
Yeah,
which like speaks for itself in terms of.
Yeah, really. I almost think, interestingly, Speechless. While it's easily the best song I think in the movie. It almost sounds way more modern than the other songs. Like even like down to the music itself feels a little less like Arabian Nights.
Sure,
but like to the movie's benefit, I think.
I think so. I think it was great. And I even really loved the setup for like the reprise. So like they start it in the beginning and it's more of like her being like defeated, and then it comes full circle to like I won't be.
Yeah. Well, then it's not just it's also it's a very good song, but then also it is Jasmine's moment to like totally prove herself and like gives Jasmine something to do, because she doesn't really help that much in the animated version. She just gets like stuck in the hourglass and then Aladdin saves her or whatever. And this was like, no, she basically like forces the first wish to fail.
Right.
Like just like out of pure speech and like willpower, which was cool.
Yeah.
I liked that because like they sort of, like one of the big complaints, or everyone always talks about from the first one or from the animated, is like, we made you a prince. What does that mean? Do we make a whole country? Is it just your clothes? Are you actually a prince? And so they basically carry that logic over to Jafar, and they're like, yeah, we gave you the clothes, and like I guess magically something happened. Like you indeed are the Sultan, but like no one forgot what just happened.
Right.
And
okay, and with that, I thought they gave a great layer to the palace guards.
Yeah. Why did they keep his name as Razul?
I have no idea.
Like he's such like a character,
a noted thing. Yeah. So that's one of those where like in the original Aladdin, you very much got like Aladdin, who you're rooting for, even though he's literally breaking the law, and the guards who are just sort of like out to get Aladdin all the time, no matter what.
Right.
And so you obviously relate more to Aladdin as like this charming, charismatic kid who's just trying to make ends meet or whatever. But this one, it was cool because like even Jasmine has had a personal relationship with the guards. Like, which of course she has.
Of course she would, because they've been around her whole life.
Right. Like if anything, they'd probably be her best friends. Like, so I thought that was cool. Like even that you could like speak to reason, like just because Jafar's got like a fancy new outfit on, it's sort of like,
like but who's really your sultan? You know,
Right.
like we choose who has power.
Right.
And then Jafar's like, unless I literally give myself power.
Right.
Which, okay, this is a something that I guess would also plague the original. It's just like a point I'm making. But is it weird that you can't wish for more wishes, but you can wish for the power to essentially grant your own wishes?
Yes.
Like, you can't get more wishes, but Jafar effectively could just do. He doesn't need the genie anymore at all after the second wish.
Well, so maybe part of that is because it comes with the lamp. You know, like I actually thought about that during the movie. Like, I wonder if all genies in some way have like a similar origin story in some capacity.
Oh.
Like they're all someone who wished.
Oh, to be like the most powerful.
Right, which is it's almost like, why is the first thing they tell you don't wish for more wishes? Because that's what we did.
Right.
You know, like
yeah.
And that was like me putting my theory cap on and being like, I wonder
how did Blue Genie become a genie?
Right.
Hmm?
Yes. Blue Genie.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how much he like warns him. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna drink from that cup." He says that a couple times.
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
It's like,
yeah.
where's the boss? There's always a guy who tricked a person to get me, and you're just okay, cool.
Right. Really? You? I liked that he played with the tropes a little bit with that. I thought that was kind of fun.
It's like everyone's first wish is always some of this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. More power or money or stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So altogether, I mean, I feel like we've hit a ton of different points of it. Do you have like a short synopsis-sized review that you would say, like, what would you tell people if they were asking, should I go see this movie?
I would say, yes, go see it. I would say it's not like a great movie,
sure,
but it was a lot of fun. Like, I left the theater like, man, I'm glad we saw that. I enjoyed it a lot.
I would say I felt exactly the same way. Like, and so people kept asking me like, what'd you think of it? And I was like, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie. I would say it probably falls into about the same category as the live action Beauty and the Beast. Would you call it better, worse, the same?
I would not say it was as good as the live action Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Although some people might have really hated that. I don't know. I liked the live action Beauty and the Beast for what it's worth. You can see our review of that elsewhere on the channel. But I think what it came down to for me is anytime they tried to specifically recreate like an exact moment from the animated version, it fell flat. And anytime they changed the narrative in even just tiny ways, it often worked a lot better because it felt like the actors could just like do an original thing rather than like have to meet people's expectations. But the overall, not even like problem, there's nothing, I don't know, other than the things we like talked about, nothing like necessarily wrong with doing a live action Aladdin. I just think Aladdin specifically is a story that benefits greatly from the medium of animation.
Okay, I think that's an absolutely spectacular way to put it. And I think that like a few of the things we touched on, like the Cave of Wonders, it's like you can't actually fill up like an entire space with mountains of gold in the same way that you can draw it.
Right. Like you can, but it's going to look all dark and shiny at the same time as opposed to like bright and yellow and gold. And,
as if the gold itself is an illumination source, like as if they are the light bulbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that I agree with that. I would highly recommend people go see the movie. I do think it's enjoyable, and just I would say do not do the Will Smith is not Robin Williams thing. I feel like we talked about it so many times. People are I guarantee the top pinned comment or upvoted comment is going to be, don't compare Will Smith to Robin Williams. Immediately compares Will Smith to Robin Williams.
Right.
Like, I guarantee that's what people are going to say because we did that.
It's so hard not to because it's so tied to like all of my memories from this movie.
Right.
But yeah, if you go in not like just trying to let the movie be itself and not trying to be the original, you'll be a lot happier.
I think
is where you're going to end up.
So. Okay, so score out of 10.
I am gonna give it like a 6.7.
A 6.7.
Yeah,
okay.
that's where I'm at.
Okay. I've been thinking about this all morning, and I think I'm gonna have to go back and adjust some of my other review scores because I do think early on when we started doing these, I was too generous. but I think that I would give it a 7.6.
7.6. There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, just a little anniversary.
That's fine. That's good.
So, guys, what I'm really curious to hear is what did you think of the movie? What was your score out of 10? Be sure to leave all of your thoughts in the towel section down below.
Ooh, final thought. How much did Jafar hate that one country?
Oh my gosh, he really did. He was like, I have power. I'm going to go.
I'm going to invade. He keeps being like, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to take over the world. And the moment he's the genie, he's like, get an army to that country.
They're going down finally.
Jafar Genie, by the way, worst CGI in the movie. That did not look good.
Oh yeah, not as great.
I'm just gonna throw in random last final thoughts. But
yeah, there you go. Oh yeah. Also, by the by, Jafar totally killed Jasmine's mother.
Oh, by the by, he totally did.
He totally did. Yeah, it's like because she was from that country and he just really, really, really wants that country gone. Even like the first time he like uses his staff to try to manipulate the Sultan. It's like that's exactly what he's trying to do is go invade that country.
Yeah, it's like the country the queen came from.
Right.
And she's dead. And you keep wanting to take them out. Like,
what's up with that, man?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
We already saw you push one person down a well.
Yeah, right. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you would like to see more of our reviews, you can check out the Beauty and the Beast review by clicking up there.
Yeah, and if you'd like to check us out on Patreon, you can check this link right here. But until next time,
bye!